Good morning students. Today I am going to give you a broad overview about the blockchain and its different functions, its architecture as well as different use cases which we are going to cover as a part of the lecture. Today I am going to discuss about the basic primitives of blockchain that what broadly we are going to cover as a part of this course. And at the same time going to give you an example about what blockchain is and in which particular case you are going to use the blockchain or which particular use case are more suitable for different types of blockchain applications. So let us start this interesting topic on blockchain, which has now seen a lot of hypes from community, both from researchers as well as from industries. Very recently, as per the Google metrics, the blockchain is one of the topic which is being searched more compared to the popular topic like artificial intelligence. So you can see there is a lot of hype about blockchain and people are talking about different popular blockchain applications including the cryptocurrency, and that way this concept has been a kind of very interesting one which people have started looking upon. To start with, I will start with the different types of myths which are roaming around this particular topic of blockchain. And today's class, we are going to talk about the use cases, which is a kind of this decentralized application that can be built upon this blockchain. So, we will give you a kind of fair idea about the different applications of use cases where blockchain can be utilized. Let us start with the different myths which were around the blockchain. So in the first class itself, I would like to make you aware about these kinds of myths, because if you just start with a simple Google search about blockchain, you will get millions of articles possibly, and different articles define blockchain in different ways, and they basically try to quantify blockchain as a kind of technology which can possibly solve all the problems in our life. But just like any other technique, blockchain also has its own advantages as well as limitations. And the purpose of this course is to make you aware about those kinds of advantages that you can get using blockchain, at the same time the type of limitations which are there on the top of this particular technology. So let us start with the first myth roaming around this idea of blockchain. The first myth is that blockchain is not equal to the Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. So there is a kind of two different techniques. Rather, what you can say that blockchain is that the technology which is being used to design Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. You can just make it similar to cryptocurrency, or Bitcoin is like an electrical equipment and blockchain is the electricity which is powering the equipment. So that way that Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is the application and blockchain is the technology that is providing power or support in the development of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. Learning blockchain will help you to understand that in which particular application you can apply this technology to get a solution out of it. So this is the kind of first myth, so just keep it in mind. The second myth around the blockchain is that anything and everything in the world cannot be solved using a blockchain. So I keep on hearing this kind of statement that, well, whenever there is a kind of fraudulent activities, or there is a kind of corruption, we can possibly use blockchain. It is not like that. So blockchain is again nothing but a technology which has been invented by different people from different domains, from the cryptographer, from the computer scientists, from the people who are being economic models of the blockchain. But it is not like that any technology in the world can be, or any problem in the world can be solved using blockchain. So it has its own limitations, as well as I have also mentioned earlier that way blockchain is good. You can solve many of the industrial problems using blockchain, but it is not like that you can change the society using this blockchain. So you need to carefully think of which is the application that can be potentially get benefited by applying the blockchain as a technology for its solution. But it is not like that you can apply blockchain in any of the problem that you get. The third myth is pretty interesting as the blockchain and the distributed database. All will think that when we have a distributed database, potentially we would be able to replace our distributed database with the help of a blockchain, and it is not like that. Blockchain is not at all a distributed database. It is just like a kind of replicated data structure. We will learn about its structure in the next subsequent classes. So it is clear that you can solve any problem using blockchain. Obviously, it has its own use case. Well, so here comes the question that why this courses? Why we are going through this course? The objective of the course is broadly to understand the technology better so that we can avoid all the hypes and myths and apply blockchain as a solution at right place. So what is the right place? Well, so to start with the terminologies which roam around the blockchain is something called decentralization. So before getting into the decentralization, let me tell you what the things are being covered in this course. So the first thing is of blockchain as a data structure. How does a blockchain look like? How do we effectively store data in blockchain? How can we effectively manage data insertion in a blockchain? What is the complexity of data insertion and searching a data item with a blockchain are being covered in this course. Next, we are going to see the blockchain as a networking protocol, in which for what types of networking architecture can we design a blockchain based solution? What different networking protocols are used in blockchain? How does the design of various network protocol impacts the blockchain performance? How can we optimize the networking architecture to make a blockchain parameters are being discussed? Next, we are going to discuss blockchain as a security black box, in which how do we ensure the security of data stored in a blockchain? What are all the attack models that can be applied on a blockchain architecture? What level of data security can be ensured with the help of a blockchain? How can we optimize various cryptographic operations to make a blockchain implementation performance are being discussed. Then we are going to see blockchain as a distributed system, in which what happens when some participants in a blockchain based system starts behaving maliciously. How do we ensure the correctness of blockchain protocols? How do we ensure safety and liveliness of blockchain operations are discussed. Next, we are going to discuss with the blockchain as a programming framework, in which how can you write a smart distributed application on the top of blockchain? What are all the supported features for such a programming framework? What can and cannot be done with such framework are being discussed. Finally, we are going to discuss the blockchain applications. What are all the different types of application that can be realized with the blockchain? What are all the different types of application that cannot be realized with the blockchain are also being discussed in this course. Let us try to understand that what decentralization means and why I would like to apply a technology to solve the problem of centralization. So to start with, we will think of a particular use case where blockchain is very much useful. So the application of supply chain management. Let us take an example and let us have our journey on this example to understand that what is the potential problem which are there inherently in a supply chain management, and why solutions like applying blockchain as a decentralized architecture is best for it. In this process, we are also going to learn and understand what decentralization is. Let us take a supply chain architecture in a petroleum industry. So, if you look at how the petroleum industry work with different kind of products and different kind of middlemen in the entire end-to-end path. It all start with the crude purchase. Once the crude oil is purchased, then this crude oil is transported to time crude storages where it is being stored, and storage it is being sent to refineries for refining. After refining the crude oil, you will get different types of products like petrol, diesel and other products which are getting from the crude oil, and these products are distributed to different retailers. So this is the kind of very simplified view of end-to-end supply chain for petroleum. The player in the entire end-to-end supply chain is Ministry of Petrol Natural Gases, and under that ministry there are certain players which are at the upstream direction, means they are mostly in the exploration and production of crude oil. They explore where they can get the crude oil and then supply the crude oil to corresponding locations, and there are downstream operations who basically refine and market them. In between the upstream and downstream operations, there are different other industries which are associated with this entire petroleum chain. If we look this upstream, the companies exploring are ONGC, OVL, Oil India Limited and some private industries. And if we see the downstream, there are Indian Oil, in which CPCL take care of the marketing, Bharat Petroleum, NRL is the is going to take care of the marketing, Industrial Petroleum, in which MRPL is going to take care of the marketing. See the industrial bodies. I've shown the list of industrial bodies for petroleum supply chain in India. That way, if you look at the end-to-end petroleum supply chain management at every level, there are different operations, different bodies. Some of them are government and some are private. And the entire system is very much complicated. The different companies, they purchase the crude oil from different others, and they have to take care of it to market, and there is the demand and supply requirement based on which they have to take a kind of planning and have to supply the things. So the main requirements for a successful supply chain management is being listed over here. The first thing is minimum material procurement, maximization of manufacturing capacity and sale. Third is to meet the demand numbers. The fourth one is of responding quick to market opportunities by purchasing the production shortfalls from other players. So that is very interesting, because for example, whenever one downstream company says Hindustan Petroleum has a shortfall, they can possibly take it from Indian Oil and can make corresponding supply. So that way these industry bodies also do a kind of cross business among themselves. The interesting fact is that the objective of each production unit would be to maximize the throughput and its margin. So that way, if you look into the requirement of this kind of complete supply chain management, you will see that to have a kind of proper supply chain architecture, all these different players need to coordinate with each other. So we need a strong coordination among all these players at different level of the supply chain, starting from the production of crude oil to its distribution, then refining them, then marketing, and finally going to the final retailer in the entire end-to-end refining. So the question comes that who is going to establish coordination, because here the basic architecture have different organization and each organization try to maximize their supply chain. We have different organization and each organization try to maximize their profit margin. So everybody is sharing the common product, the crude oil, and then the product which are being produced from the crude oil. Everyone have their objective. So there are the competitors of they are the competitors of each other. Everyone tries to do a kind of proper and managing a kind of proper demand supply and so on. What way if we can design a kind of architecture through which they can coordinate with each other in a successful way, that means they can get the information about the demand, that a petroleum company has this much of petroleum that can possibly procure to meet the requirement. So if we share such kind of information among them, then we can possibly better do a kind of management of this, then product in the end-to-end supply chain. So this is basically a kind of decentralized architecture where you have multiple different business organization. Everyone has their own government structure. Everyone has their own policy of doing marketing, doing the business. But at the end of the day, there are basically working on a common product, working on a common marketplace, and that way if they can collaborate with each other or coordinate with each other in some way, everyone might get benefited out of it. So this is the kind of decentralized architecture that we are talking about, that we do not have a kind of central body or central coordinator who is coordinating all these different players in the supply chain. Rather, it is like that everyone is taking their own decision in an independent way. Rather, every one of the organization have their own policy of maximizing the profit, doing the business, and so on, and they are in common market. Now with this kind of decentralized architecture, the question comes that how do we obtain the real-time information from the stakeholders? Let us think of different solutions. We will have a web-based portal where we will put all the information that who has how much of crude oil, what is the current price of the crude oil, how much barrels of crude oil are being currently there, how much barrel of petroleum and diesel products are there. But here comes the problem of decentralization. What is the guarantee that the information submitted to the portal is correct? Who is going to validate it? Another problem which might arise, that what if someone denies information? So how to prove the information submitted is not by someone else? So we need a decentralized solution. That means no one trusts each other, but they should cooperate with each other. so that this kind of requirement is going to solve the problem? The answer is blockchain. Let us see how we can design a decentralized solution for this particular problem. The fundamental principle is they need something where they can submit information well, and then we would have a way to verify that. Let us assume that we have blackboard. Assume that this blackboard is accessed by everyone at the same time. Whatever we write on the blackboard becomes permanent. No one able to change, and no one is able to change which is being written on the blackboard. So supply chain informations are recorded over the blackboard, so that whenever some crude oil is getting produced, that corresponding stakeholder put up the information on the blackboard. Say 1,20,432 barrels are produced on Mumbai on December 21, 2023. So when distributor is going to distribute this oil to different organization, they will put up an info saying that 16,467 barrels are transported from Mumbai to HPCL refinery on December 21, 2023 at 2:30 p.m. So that way infos are being going to put on the blackboard and everyone see it, and that is interesting. Why it is interesting is by looking into the information on the blackboard, we can track what is happening, how much crude is being produced, how much it is being transported, and when and from where it is being transported, and it is being received by whom. Everything is being transparent on the blackboard. Any of the stakeholder can see this information throughout the end-to-end supply. For example, if you see 100 barrels of crude oil has been produced, and after that 60 barrels are being transported to some refinery, so immediately one can able to ask, where is the remaining? What happens to the remaining? So there are now there are certain properties of the board. Let us discuss them now. Board has a finite space. You have space to write, nothing is erased from it. That is, all the historical information is there on the board. One can verify by looking at, and the information on the board cannot be erased. That is, everyone can see it as well as it can be verified. Everyone is able to see the information on the board, and they should be able to verify the information. So the next thing is that any change in the information should be visible to everyone. That means it might happen that you have written something by mistake. Then if you want to change it, you are not allowed to erase. What you can do is you can just mention that a statement which I had written earlier was a mistake, and this is the correct information that I have. That way everyone also have to inform, and that is being written on the board. So the information is being appended in the board without being erased. So the previous information is also being in the board, and which is wrong, and the correct information is also being written on the board. So the wrong information and the corrected information, everything will be on the board, and it is visible to everyone. So the next property is that The board is not erasable, no one can erase it, so no one can deny what they have written on the board since it is permanent on the board. Now let us see how we can utilize this board further. So the advantage here is that you can simply do a one-step audit of the entire information. You do not need a complex or manual checking of all papers, get papers from different organizations or different enterprises. Even a simple computer program can do the audit for you by analyzing all the information that has been submitted on the board and saying that whether there is any kind of discrepancy is there or not. So that way it can automate that the entire process. From the perspective of petroleum supply chain, by looking into the board, you can simply say that a company X has a mismatch of additional barrels, or I need petrol, so I can approach a company to get additional petrol, or say a company Y is currently selling petrol at a low price, so I can possibly approach them to get. So one can actually do such kind of matchmaking by writing some kind of simple computer programs. So the advantage you get is you can easily make a simple audit, and the information is public, and all this information are verifiable here. But the problem which comes to us is that who is going to maintain this board? Because if you just think of this board looks pretty similar to web portal that we have mentioned earlier. So the only difference is that I am just putting up certain additional constraint on this board. But someone has to maintain this board. And in this end-to-end supply chain, I do not have any centralized coordinator who is going to coordinate this entire process. I have mentioned that I want to have a kind of complete decentralization. I do not want to have a kind of central authority to maintain everything, because if there is a central authority, if the central authority fails or certain attacks occur in the central authority, the complete information is lost, all the coordination is lost. So a perfect decentralized system will actually help me to make the system more fail safe. Hence the information is maintained by multiple peoples here, so that it becomes decentralized, that is it becomes decentralized. So decentralization always improves the security, but decentralization have certain overhead that we are going to discuss later on. But at least this is the kind of the advantage that you can get from this decentralization. Another possibility is that one of the enterpriser in the entire supply chain is going to maintain this information and pay for it. But again, it is a vast solution because all the enterprises are competitors to each other. Hence, no guarantee that the enterpriser holding information is not a fraud. One final possible solution is that let everyone maintain the same copy of the board individually and independently. That means rather having a single copy of board maintained by someone, everyone have the board. That is that we are making a decentralized architecture of the board, so that we can get a decentralized architecture. Next question is how I am going to enforce this. That is, no one is the sole owner of the data, but everyone has a copy of data. So no central database, but I have to ensure that everyone holds exactly the same copy of data at same instant of time. We will see there is some interesting architecture in our distribution system through which we can solve this problem. This is called a kind what we say as a distributed concession problem. So later on we are going to see this concession. What does this concession means? So now convert the blackboard as blockchain. That is, replace the blackboard with a particular data structure that is called blockchain. A blockchain is a immutable, append only, ever growing chain. So blockchain is a immutable, append only, ever growing chain of data. Data once added cannot be deleted or modified. So hence we can define a blockchain as a immutable, append only, ever growing chain of data. Data once added cannot be deleted or modified. Here we see individual things that I have mentioned. Immutable. Immutable means no one will be able to make any change. No one will be able to make any change. We cannot make any change. Append only means that you cannot erase. Once written, that cannot be deleted any further. Ever growing, which means since it is being append only, it is also going to grow. That is, we are going to add new information, additional information or additional blocks that are being added or appended. Hence, the block is ever growing. Finally, we are going to add the data. We cannot delete or modify the data. That is, the data once which is being returned on the block cannot be deleted as well as it cannot be modified. So these are all the properties that I am going to support in this particular data structure. So every individual player maintain their copy of blockchain. Again, I will repeat what is a blockchain. A blockchain is a immutable, append only, ever growing chain of data. Data once added cannot be deleted or modified later. So we can say a blockchain as a decentralized, immutable, append only public ledger. So this is what for today's class. In the next class, we can see some of the basics of various crypto techniques, crypto hash, public key crypto system and digital signature. Thank you.